Greetings there, all of my Chun warriors. Welcome back for another Dick Sage's Dojo session. This session is going to be a little bit on the shorter side. I pretty much wanted to go ahead and make this and say to all my fellow warriors out there, I hope you all are having a good holiday stretch. I do hope that your time is peaceful with a good balance of eventfulness. And hopefully you're just able to find some peace within your time off of this game and within this game as well. And so happy holidays to all of you here. What I wanted to go ahead and do is it might not necessarily be much, but I figured that this might be a precursor for what is to come, of course, as well as just kind of one of my gifts to all of you. I can't guarantee that these techniques will work for everyone. I can't necessarily guarantee that. I do know they do work for me, and what they allow me to do is they kind of prepare me to engage in this game in a greater sense, so to speak. Usually, I will apply these when I actually decide to get on the game, and the purpose is not so much just training, but to actually test the results of training. And some of these are some of the things that I will actually do, and do habits and things of that nature that I practice that I honestly think will help a lot of people in order to see better results when they're playing this game, even if it's not necessarily just getting more wins, but just being calmer, more present when playing the game, right? But a lot of my training is not just in the game itself. It's not just with Chun-Li. It is also a lot of metaphysical training, a lot of training outside of the game as well. For those that aren't necessarily sure what it means, metaphysical is basically just the opposite of physical. Think of spiritual, mental, spiritual things that are not tangible. It goes beyond just mechanics. It reflects things such as your mental aptitude when playing the game, as well as your thoughts and mindfulness while playing as well. So I figured I would share a few things, and these will also act as a precursor for what is to come, of course. So, but with no further ado, let's go ahead and get started here. So, one of the first things that you want to try to do is, like I said, this is going to start there. It might seem very rudimentary, but it's something that can easily be overlooked, and it can carry a long way, right? Something as minor as this is often the little things that are ignored that end up adding up to have the biggest effect, in my experience. A lot of the times we try to focus on what we perceive to be the big things, but the things that have the biggest impact are the little things that we ignore. Right? Think of something as simple as if you're trying to do a combo and you keep dropping it, and then when you really stop to mindfully analyze it, you start to look at your inputs and you start to realize that you're actually pressing a button at the wrong time, right? So things of that nature. Or maybe you're mashing it multiple times when you don't have to. But we're going to go ahead and start in a more rudimentary thing, but something that's probably neglected is, first of all, you want to make sure that you are comfortable when playing this game. Try to position yourself consistently. You want to be able to take the same consistent positioning, whether that's sitting in a chair, standing up, crouching if if you have the aptitude for that, lying down on your side, anything like that. Just try to make sure that you maintain the same positioning every time, and you want to try to, as much as possible, make sure that you engage in this game and train with as little tension as possible, because I can speak for myself. It's very easy for me to be doing something and not realize that my shoulder is tensed all the way up, almost to, like, if I'm sitting in an environment waiting for an appointment or something like that, I might be like, tensing my arm almost as if I'm trying to flex a bicep and not even realize it. But then the mindfulness comes in and I relax it, right? That the key thing is to train ourselves to be able to find these things and to develop a habit of being relaxed, right? So you want to make sure you're in a position that doesn't yield discomfort. Try to make sure that you're holding your controller the same way, or your peripheral as much the same way as you possibly can get it. Because if you just a slight dispositioning of your thumb or index finger can impact your muscle memory as well as your execution. especially if you change it a lot, it will cause it will basically confuse your hands and make it difficult to develop consistent execution and input, right? So you want to make sure, in order to help your muscle memory in the long run, try to maintain consistent positioning when playing this game or other competitive games like Tekken or Fatal Fury, anything like that, right? And try to make sure you're in a comfortable position. When you're doing something, this can easily be reflected in training. You definitely want to start with training when it comes to this stuff, and then start using it online as well. These things will also help to make things less tense and annoying when you're playing online too. So you also want to make sure that when you're putting your inputs in, you don't want to be mashing a lot of things. As much as sometimes mashing can be tactical, but you want to make sure you have a very tactical reason for doing it. You don't want to just mash in frustration, or because you really want, like, because you're scared that the move won't come out or something like that. Because mashing's not going to make that big of a difference most of the time, right? So you want to make sure you're not mashing. When you're gripping your thumb with the stick on, if you're using arcade, or if you're manipulating the pad or a thumbstick if you're using a pad, you want to make sure that you're not putting too much tension and effort into what you're doing. Like if you try to crouch block, make sure that you're not really, like pulling down back too hard, right? You want to try to make it as effortless as you can to the point where it still works. Obviously, if you relax it too much, you're going to find that you don't have the strength to actually hold down back. So you want to try to find that sweet spot that is just enough, maybe a little bit more tension, just to be sure, and try to get used to applying whatever it is you're doing with that much tension and not too much tension in your thumb and hands. So I don't have a body cam or anything like that I could use to really show it, but just try to visualize it as much as you can with the instructions that I'm giving here. Same thing when you're pushing the buttons. You don't want to press the buttons too hard. Try to use as little effort as possible, but not too little. And this is something that we want to practice doing on a consistent basis when playing. That way we can get used to it while we're practicing in the training room, and then develop the muscle memory and the habit of doing things more relaxed, right? This will actually end up having a bit of a snowball effect, which will eventually get you to the point where you are relaxed playing online, even if you're having a sweaty ranked game, right, against someone. It won't be as sweaty for you, so to speak, right? There's also a fitness expert by the name of Mike Chang on YouTube. I'll actually post a link to some of his content here to show some of the processes that I do. It involves a type of, it's called Flow 360. It's basically it's almost like a series of exercises and stretches, almost like a warm-up that you can do in order to help get your energy flowing and to open your heart and mind and become more present and mindful of what's happening, right? These practices definitely help me. They help me to remain calm. They help me to become more present. They help me to establish a greater hold on using my instincts when I'm playing the game. And I always notice that when I undergo this process, it makes my effectiveness in whatever it is that I'm doing, from Street Fighter to anything outside of the game, much more effective. So I'll leave a link to that in the description below in the dojo session here. So that's something else that can also be applied. Now, as when it comes to training, as we mentioned with the more rudimentary steps of making sure that you're not using too much tension, you want to be able to understand what it is that you need to work on. It's probably easy if you just think about, I seem to struggle with this. When people jump, I get hit. When people drive rush, I get hit. When they drive rush cancel off of their normals, I end up getting put in a blender. You could probably identify what it is that you're struggling with very easily, right? There are a lot of different things, but we want to take them one step at a time. You want to identify what it is. And I'm going to give an example using like maybe one or two specific things. So let's say, for example, you're having issues with drive rushing. Right. Let me go ahead and get a different character so I don't mess up anything that I have set up here. let's go ahead and pick a Kumar. All right. So for first things, right, and these are things that I've probably gone over before, but I'm going to go over them in a more specific detail this time around. So we're going to go ahead and erase all of this stuff here, and we're going to set Akuma to do a drive rush, basically. And actually, I'm going to do something a little bit faster, like that. All right. And the key thing is you want to make sure that there is no tail if you can. There's a bit of a tail there, so I messed that up. I'm going to have him do it again. Let me see if I can do it this way. That should do it. We don't want there to be a tail. We don't want a sudden pause or shift in momentum to be able to give you a hint of what's happening. So this is a very fast drive rush here. Now, what we're going to go ahead and do here is you're going to start with this. Right. Something basic. It's fast. Almost every character's drive rushes are fast, but there are some that are faster. And the jab is the fastest one, so he's doing that as soon as he can. There's very little time and opportunity for you to actually be able to respond to that. So it is very quick. All right. And pretty much what we want to go ahead and do is we're going to start with that and no other recordings. And then while he's doing that, you just want to find the button that it is that you want to use to try to deal with that. The button you use is going to depend on the range. So if you're this close, if you're here, and if you're back here. If you're all the way back here, most characters are not going to drive rush at you. That's going to be matchup specific. This is usually the sweet spot where somebody's going to want to drive rush. People aren't going to drive rush when you're right in their face like this. If they do, they're probably going to get hit by a jab. So you might fight some crazy players that don't, I mean, that might be a lower rank or newer to the game that might do it, but people that are more formidable are not going to just drive rush here unless it's some type of strange mind game situation, right? So usually sweet spot's going to be right around here, which is where you start here, right? So this is a good place to start. This is a good place to start, and you're just going to start with the drive rush jab. And you're going to find the button that you want to use. It could be something like this. Right. And you want to make sure you practice doing your follow-up afterwards. Now, this isn't about buffering inputs, but this isn't a video about buffering inputs, but just so you know how to buffer an input is simply put, you can't do it with everything because some things recover too quickly. So you can't really buffer an input on a jab like this. Right. Pretty much what buffering an input is when you do your attack, you're going to do the thing that you want to do afterwards, even if you know that whether they're going to get hit or not. Even if you don't know what's going to happen, right? A lot of pros will use this technique. You can't do it with jabs, unfortunately, especially with drive rush, because it recovers too quickly, right? Same thing if you try to buffer into a special move, which is something that you can technically do. But moves that are a little bit more meaty, that are active for longer, you can buffer some things. Like this move, for example, you can't buffer a drive rush with this, unfortunately, because she's going to do the drive rush even if nothing connects. However, you can buffer lightning kicks. If you time it right, this might take some practice. If you do it too early, you're just going to get lightning kicks. If you do it too late, that's what's going to happen. You want to do it like right at the sweet spot. Like right after you push the button, you just follow through with the input anyway. And what's going to happen with this is, as you can see here, I'm not getting the lightning kicks. But if Akuma makes contact with me, that's going to change very quickly. The same will go even if he blocks, right? So we're going to go ahead and put block all. Whoops, I'm looking at the wrong thing. See, nothing. Now, if he blocks this, you see that? This is buffering an input. When you make contact with your opponent, they're going to get hit, right? Well, not get hit, but your move's going to come out, right? That's how buffering the inputs works. And high level players and pros use this all the time. So the logic behind it is well, if they block that, then I'm gonna get blown up, right? You said not to use lightning kicks willy nilly. That's true. But the truth of the matter is that if your opponent is walking forward, they can't block, right? It's just about thinking about it the right way. If your opponent is moving towards you, they can't block at the same time. So if they run into your button, they are 100% going to get hit, right? Unless they are cheating. So if they run into your button, you know, they're going to get hit. So you don't have to worry about that. So you can, unfortunately, you can't buffer drive rush off of this because it's not meaty enough. But there are some things where you can. This one, see? This one is active for long enough. Same thing with this one, right? Same thing with this one. So what ends up happening is if Akuma runs into us, see that? That's buffering an input. Like I said, this is a basic crash course, short and sweet, but that's what buffering an input is. When you're gonna make a decision, regardless of what it is, you want to make the whole decision. You don't want to say, oh, I want to make sure that he's getting hit first before I do the drive rush after it. If you're doing this, you want to have the intent of understanding that I'm using this for a reason. And if that reason is to stop a drive rush, you want to assume that a drive rush is coming when you do this, even if they don't do it. And what ends up happening is if your opponent does decide to drive rush, you see that? They end up getting hit, and then you still get the combo anyway. So I'm bringing all of this stuff up is because you want to pick whatever button that is that you want to use. That's it. You can't use anything that's too fast because you can't buffer these moves. Not with Chun-Li at least. So probably something that's good to start in terms of something that's meaty is this. You can even use this or this as well. I think this is probably the best one because it's active for the longest. Her arm stays out there much longer. It's like a force field almost. And because she's poking with her knuckle, it makes her a little bit more disjointed, and her hurt box is a little bit harder to get, right? So it might not have the best range, but because it's active, it makes it easier for your opponent to run into it because it's active for longer, right? The longer moves are active for, the higher the chance of the opponent running into it is, even if you mess it up, right? So that's the key thing. You want to pick one of the moves, and you can technically use this too, but this is a little more risky. I recommend this. It has more range and it recovers faster, right? So you pick something, and then you're gonna have the bot do this over and over again, and you're going to watch their character model. Make sure your eyes are glued to them. Pay very close attention to what the bot is doing here. All right. After you've done this comfortably for about maybe 10 minutes or something like that, this is very easy. I have no doubt that everybody can do this. But you want to train your body and mind to deeply, intimately recognize all of the attributes to a drive rush. The sudden pause in the animation for a split second, the opponent making a specific sound cue, prepare in Akuma's case, and the giant green spark that you see that makes it look like Broly from Dragon Ball, right? That's those are all things that are very integral to a drive rush. So you want to, it seems like it's negligible now, but you want to train yourself as much as you can to get used to seeing that, and teach your body and mind to get used to seeing that. And something that you can do to try to take things to the next level after that is to go ahead and record the dummy to try to follow the same cadence. Notice how Akuma goes forward, then back, and then does that. What we're going to do is, instead of doing a drive rush, we're going to make another recording in which he does this. Forward, back, forward. and we're going to set this to 3. You can set it higher if you want to, but I think 3 or 2 is a good balance. This basically makes it how it gives it a higher percent chance of this maneuver being selected over the other. And you're going to sit here and watch him, and you're going to only press something when you notice that Akuma's going for a drive rush. And make sure you're working with whatever button is that you plan on using the most. Get used to it. Alright. It's a little hard because he's so close, right? It's a drive rush is fast. Very quick, right? And then something that we can do next in order to take things to the next level is, this might seem strange, but it will have some type of an effect. Something else that you can do is, if you're using a mic or listening through speakers or your television, turn the volume down. Or you can just go into the settings options, and you can actually go into audio settings and just completely just nerf the master volume or the sound effects. You can keep the music if you want to, just get rid of the sound effects. Just make sure that when oh no, wait, actually we're gonna go ahead and let me see, character voice volume, go ahead and cut that down too. Okay. You just want to make sure that you can't hear Akuma do his thing. All right. That's the important thing. So if Akuma moving forward is a little bit too weird, what we can go ahead and do here is we can record him doing this instead. Whoops, recording and going back instead like that, right? This should still be enough of a mix-up to not be able to tell. You're going to turn the volume off and you're going to look at his model and you're going to try to react to it. No sound. So you don't get a sound cue. This might not seem like much, but it's going to add more stretch, it's going to add more stress to it. You can see it's still pretty difficult to react to. Especially since I'm not completely focusing on it. I'm also trying to make sure that I keep up communicating with you guys out there for this session. But yeah, pay very close attention to that. And there's something that you can do to take things to the next level, as you probably already guessed where we're going with this. Go ahead and turn everything back up to wherever it was at, the default settings. You can just restore the default settings here. All right. And then what you're going to do next is you're going to close your eyes. This one's really hard. And you're going to try to use only the sound to respond. If you fail, that's okay. The goal is to sharpen your senses. I got counter hit there, so that means that I at least responded to it. It just wasn't fast enough. As you can see by my inputs, I am definitely pressing something. But it's harder than it seems. I can't even get it. I probably have to use something faster to catch him. And I think you get the point. It's hard to do. It's not easy. But if you keep doing it and working on it, I'm pretty sure that if I was to turn the input lag off, that it would actually get it. But that's not the goal. The goal is to just own your senses. And eventually, if you can get to the point where you're completely focused on it and you're able to actually hit him out of it and you can do it consistently, you know you're making progress with this endeavor. Fortunately, I keep getting counter hit. Make sure you're not tense. Don't anticipate what is about to happen. Make sure you're just listening calmly and mindfully. But don't be anxious. Fortunately, I can't get it. It's hard, but it is what it is. I have gotten it before. Just right now, in the moment, I can't seem to get it. Probably because my focus is not completely on the task at hand, unfortunately. And then what you can go ahead and do is you can start adding more things to that. Try to keep the same cadence. You can do a jump, and you can have them with a button, things of that nature. And then, depending on what that you're working on, you know, it makes it harder for yourself. And then, if you want to crank it up even further, get DJ, Jury, or Bison. If you want to crank it up to the absolute max struggle, we're going to get DJ to do it. He has the fastest drive rush in the game, bar none. So if you're able to catch him doing it, it is 100, like, you know. He's faster than any other character in the game. So the reason why we do this is because if you are able to get to the point where you can respond to DJ doing it, then you're going to be able to respond to every other character in the game because he is the fastest one. It makes sense, right? It's very, very hard to do. For DJ might be a matchup specific thing. You might just legitimately have to do a jab if you fight against DJ because it's just so unbelievably fast. Right. This is very hard to react to, unfortunately. Like I said, DJ has the fastest drive rush in the game, so if you're able to check him out of it, then you can check pretty much any character out of it. You want to make sure that there isn't a rhythmic tell that is allowing you to get pre-called. You want to rely on your reactions for it. This way you can sharpen the reactions. It all depends on what you are trying to train. Yes, technically speaking, the players will tell you, high-level players will tell you that it's about anticipation. But raw reactions are still very important when it comes to this. And you want to be able to train yourself to respond to it quickly because this is going to bolster your responsiveness in general. Right? So as you can see, DJ is very fast. It might require me to actually do like a jab in order to get him. He's so unbelievably quick that I'm just being blitzed here. I'm being speed blitzed like Sasuke and Naruto, right? But if you can catch him, then you're golden, right? Because he's the fastest in the game by a long shot. And it's okay if you have a high failure rate. Just keep practicing this. Periodically put your time and effort into it for a good session. Take breaks and then come back at another time, depending on how seriously you want to take your training. Right? And then the same things that we mentioned with against Akuma, you're going to do those with DJ. You can start to make it more difficult by using only audio, using only visuals. Good luck stopping DJ's drive rush with only audio. If you're able to do that, then you will have no problems dealing with drive rush. Right? So you can stop him, or if you at least get acclimated to dealing with him, even if you can't stop him, because we can see I'm failing most of the time here. It's very lightning fast drive rush. Right, I'm failing most of the time here, unfortunately. I'm getting them every now and then, but it's so fast, right? So it's I think we get the point. And you can also use this for drive impact as well. The drive impact, even though I have trouble with it, is still not as fast as drive rushes. My drive impact has actually, this training that I'm showing you has actually improved my drive impact significantly from where it was. I still have trouble with it, unfortunately, because only so much can be done about physiological deficits, but it's better than it used to be. Before, I was not able to respond to it at all. It was just too tough luck, too slow every time. Now, I at least have a chance to respond to it if for example, if my opponent matches drive impact when I'm doing a normal. Before, if I was doing normals, even after 3 normals, I still wouldn't be able to respond. So the training has definitely helped me to improve. I'm still working on ways to further the regimen in order to get even closer to becoming the ultimate kung fu warrior, right? So I'm definitely going to discover ways to overcome the deficit that I have here. It just might take some time. So, but I think that all of you out there will have a much better time and get better results out of this training. So that's why I'm going ahead and sharing that with you. Like I said, this can be, now the audio aspect can't be done with everything, but things that have specific audio cues and tells that are problematic, like drive, rush, drive, impact, you can definitely use this training for those. Outside of the audio aspects, you can use this for anything. You can use it for anti-airs. You can use it for trying to whiff punish. You just want to start with simple steps. Make sure that you're relaxed and being mindful and not anxious. Try not to get frustrated. If you start getting frustrated, take a break and come back. Then what you want to go ahead and do is, once you get used to whatever it is that you're trying to do, of course, as I mentioned before, you want to try and turn a bot on, and then you're going to train against the bot and only look to focus on whatever that thing is. So if you're trying to anti-air, you're mainly only looking for anti-airs. That's where and that's where your attention is going to be most and foremost. And then you're going to go online and try to do the same. You will lose games as a result, but it's okay, because when you're trying to learn something, failure is almost inevitable, unfortunately, in this plane of existence. So actually, these are things that I went over before in one of the previous dojo sessions, but I wanted to give more specific spice to my specific methods and how I approach doing these things, because they can really help to bolster the effectiveness of it. It's very important to have to find your center when you're doing this. You want to have a calm mind. You want to have a receptive presence, meaning you don't want to, as much as possible, try to make sure you don't have anything gnawing at you, some ache or pain from an uncomfortable position, or just frustration and annoyance, things of that nature, right? Some of the flow practices that I'm going to link will help with some of the frustration and the anxiousness that you might feel. And it's easier said than done, but this stuff takes practice. Like I said, metaphysical training is something that I have been doing for years and still work on constantly. So it might not be something that will just magically flip a switch in 5 minutes. Maybe it will for you if you're a particularly adept individual, but it's taken me years of training to even get to where I am now when it comes to this stuff, right? Some of these training methods and tools are hopefully will act as a secret weapon to help turn you into the ultimate kung fu warrior as well, right? I definitely use and train with these methods, and usually when I take the chains off in order to see the results, I'm actually usually surprised at how much further I will have progressed after going through all of these methods. And of course, as I've mentioned before in previous videos, other secret techniques of mine that you can apply is, though I would not recommend this unless you intend to get used to it, because your muscle memory, especially with Chun will be impacted if you're not careful. But something else that you can do that I use is you can actually train with input lag. I believe I mentioned that before and I showed how to do it. There are two methods of doing this. This one is probably something that you definitely want to do, because when you play online, you're going to have lag, right? A problem that I had is I was training in the training room like this, and it was almost like playing offline. And then I would go online and wonder why my combos were dropping, and the reason why the combos were dropping is because I'm training in an offline environment and then I'm going online and lag. So if you're experiencing anything like that, try to make sure that you go over to the environment settings in the training room. And input delay, you're going to select one of these. I would say 2 or 3 is probably the balance in between. But you try to get a feel for what it's like for your environment online. But you want to make sure that you pick the right one that's most suitable for you, because your muscle memory is going to be dependent on it. This isn't a complete foolproof solution. Sometimes you'll fight somebody that has a absolutely Heinz ketchup connection, and sometimes you'll fight someone that has a very generously green relish connection, right? In which either case, if you're used to playing with two or three or four or something like that, you probably your muscle memory is still going to be a little cooked for things that are more intricate, like doing this. This is why I still drop things like this online, right? Because it's the muscle memory gets cooked a little bit. That's why I say you have to be careful with this stuff with Chun-Li, because with her it carries more weight because she's very intricate in how you have to execute your maneuvers, right? But with that being said, you definitely want to make sure you have that set up right. And then something as a bonus that you can do is if you pause in the training settings, if we go and scroll over to basic settings and head to options, and then we're going to click over to the graphic settings, input delay reduction, or if you turn that, that's going to reduce the lag significantly. Right? It's so much so to the point where, just like the other one, I can't even do instinct-based combos. I have to actually cognitively pay attention. So if I just turn my brain off and try to autopilot, I'm gonna drop things, right? Because of the difference. So, see that? I'm just dropping everything that I normally do. But it's gonna make your reaction speed faster, right? Especially if you get used to training. Well, it's going to make your ability to respond to things a lot faster, especially if you're used to training and lag all the time. I said DJ is still blitzingly fast, but now that the weights are off, it should be a little bit easier to catch him doing a drive rush. He was a little bit too fast right there. He's still catching me. It's still really fast. Let's try a jab. Still got me. Still got me. So he's really fast. But if we were to put Akuma back, this would definitely, you will be able to see. You can already see a difference here. So, right. I definitely press right there. So he has a cracked speed drive rush. It's really hard to catch him out of it. You want to be careful with this. This will improve your defense and your responsiveness. It'll be like taking a weight off. But it will mess with your muscle memory. So you do want to be careful with that. That's very important when it comes to doing your combos and stuff. Other characters, you can probably get away with this without worrying about it, but Chun-Li specifically, if you do meddle with that stuff, I definitely recommend using it primarily to train your defense and try not to get too used to doing offense with it. You want to do very minimal offense. And if you do anything offensive online, for example, with those settings changed, you want to make sure that you go and you turn them off as soon as you can to return back to your equilibrium state, back to neutral. Because if you get too used to doing it, your muscle memory is going to be cooked, right? And you don't want all your hard work to just be erased because of that. If you're going to play in lag, especially with Chun-Li, I recommend doing it to improve your defense and improve your tensile reaction speed. To improve your ability to find holes in your opponent's offense, things like that, right? So, drive impact, drive rush, anything that requires you to act in defense is where the playing in lag really shines, right? So, the input lag definitely helps me a lot. Every now and then I'll take the chains off to see how well it goes, and it definitely makes a huge difference. Those are some of my secret techniques that I have here. I have other techniques, but those are all the only ones that I'm going to really share here. Hopefully those tips will help you. Take it one step at a time. If you struggle with any of the audio approaches or the visual only approaches and you're getting hit and stuff like that, don't be too dismayed by it. Remember, the goal of this is primarily to just make sure that you're able to respond to it. This is to help own your senses. And if you do it over time, it's going to make you sharper. He's fast. But if you can catch him, it's going to be a lot easier when you go back to other characters and you try to catch them. Jury's another crack speed one. I think she has a jump involved as well, so I'm gonna have to be careful. Oh, she still got me. Well, because my focus is not completely there. Ah, she faked me right there. The stop and drive rush is still very hard, but if you're in your element and you're really focused, this training will help, right? So. And if you see a counter hit pop up, that means that you definitely pressed the button. It was just a little bit too fast. Like I said, raw drive rushes are, for these characters, are very fast, but if you can catch them, same thing with Bison, it will help you against other characters, for sure. You catch her with that one. Let's see. Still hard, but hopefully it is starting to make sense here. So you keep working with that. Yes, I'm going to continue to keep practicing it as well, and it's going to make you sharper. It has definitely made me sharper. So hopefully these tips help you on your journey to become the ultimate Kung Fu warrior. But thank you very much for attending to this dojo session. Again, I hope you all have a happy, safe holidays, and make sure you maintain your peace and equilibrium. And this is going to be Sage Armageddon signing out. Have an awesome day. Take care.